Hey folks, JD here, and today I'd like to start off a bit of a new segment that we trialled last week. This is an extra video that we're going to start rolling out every week, hopefully on a Monday, and where we just discuss drones, quadcopters for intermediate, advanced and beginners, and then we're going to see where it goes from there. So some advice, some maintenance, and some other things as well, and see if you guys find this beneficial. So I think to kickstart this off today, I get quite a few emails asking me about beginner quadcopters. If I could have the top 2 or 3 quadcopters that I could definitely say to a beginner, do you know what, you can fly this, no problem at all. So I think I'd like to start off there. So as you can see, I've got 3 here which I'd like to talk about. We've got the MJX X401, we've got the SEMA X5C, and we've got the JJRC H5P. So what I'll do, let's get rid of these. Let's talk about this little guy first, because even though I've put this in the beginner section, this has got a few advanced features, but it is really simple to fly, hence it being in the beginner section. So this quadcopter, what I'd normally look for when I started flying, I went down the route of buying a quite expensive quadcopter. I think it cost me around about £85. It was the JXD 509G, and I ended up getting it stuck in a tree. And it was a moment when I thought to myself, you know what, I actually can't fly as good as I thought I could. So I needed to bring myself down a couple of pegs and go through how I thought I could fly, and actually start at the beginning and go from there. So once I eventually got the drone out of the tree, it was one hell of a learning curve. Starting off with how do you fly, how do you stay up in the air, how do you hover, and what actually helped me no end was a quadcopter with altitude hold. So what that is, it's a barometer which is built into the quadcopter, and when it senses air pressure, it just hovers at that particular altitude. Okay, the wind does push it, it's not GPS, it doesn't, if it gets pushed to the side, it doesn't go back to where it was, it will keep on being pushed. So you do still have some sort of, you do still need some sort of control over it, but that helped me a lot. So I would recommend a quadcopter for a beginner with altitude hold. It would be this guy, because this guy isn't very fast, but I'm saying that he doesn't move slowly either. So you have enough of a reaction time if you want to bring him down, or if you want to bank him left to right. But also, because of the built-in barometer and the altitude hold, you haven't got to always think to yourself, well, I've got to keep this flying up. You can just have this at an altitude and get used to moving it side to side, forward and back, until you can feel confident in moving her side to side, forward and back, and up and down at the same time as well. So this helped me a lot. I wouldn't say that it was going to help everyone, but obviously for myself, when I started off, I think it was about 12 months ago, started flying, I needed something quite basic, and this was it. It has a built-in barometer, as I say, so you do have the ability to have altitude hold. It also has a camera just under here, and the camera itself is just one button on the controller. So if you didn't want to take photos or videos, that's fine. Just get used to how the quadcopter feels. That would be my advice. A lot of people run out, buy 400, 500 pound quadcopters, crash them, put the video on YouTube, and they're devastated. To be honest, I don't think that's the correct way to go. If I was to give any advice at all, I would say get a quadcopter with altitude hold, get it up to an altitude, move it around, and get a feel for it. And then once you've mastered this one and you're able to do 3D flips and bank it left to right and move her around in circles in a figure of 8 as she's going, then upgrade and look at slightly more expensive quadcopters. So this is the MJX X401H, and that is my #1 quadcopter for a beginner. So I'll just put that out of the way for a second. Now my second one would be the JJRC H5P. So JJRC, if you're not familiar with this brand, They are very good. They build very sturdy, very good quadcopters. This one is no different. This one is quite cheap actually. The MJX comes in at around about £85, whereas this one comes in at, if memory serves, I bought it about 5 months ago and it cost me around about £30, £25–30. Now it doesn't have altitude hold. All it is a really bog standard quadcopter. It has LEDs on the front, the back and the sides here, these little strips. That will denote which way the quadcopter is flying. It does have a camera. The camera quality isn't fantastic. You can check out the flight review I did of this on this channel as well. But there's a reason that I think a camera is good for a beginner. Because when you're taking off, you know which way the camera is facing, that is forwards. There are so many that when you take the camera off it, you've really got to give it a try and see which way it goes. At least if you have a camera affixed to the bottom, you know if the lens points that way, then the drone's going to go that way as well. So, as I say, this is basic, it's very cheap, it doesn't have any mod cons, quite literally a camera, and it's just a standard drone. This is a little bit quicker than the MJX, but it doesn't feel unsafe when you're flying it as a beginner. But I would definitely say if you haven't experienced any JJRC quadcopters, start off with this one. It's really inexpensive, it's really basic. It's easy for maintenance, you can get at the cogs underneath it. With the landing sprigs at the bottom, you have quite a lot of ground clearance, so you haven't got to worry too much about landing in a couple of millimetres of grass. So yeah, this is another really good quadcopter. The battery loads from the top, and the battery itself is slightly larger, giving you a bit more of a capacity. If memory serves, I believe we had about 8 to 10 minutes of battery life out of this. Obviously, if you don't have the camera on, you're going to have even more. So this is another good beginner quadcopter to start off on. So I'm not going to have much room on this table, so I'll put this one to one side. Now, this next one is good old trusty. This is the SEMA X5C. Now this quadcopter is about £25. Cheaper than the JJRC. Build quality is pretty good, but flying for a beginner, this is your boy. It's fantastic. No mod cons, no altitude hold. Just got a camera once again. Once again, very handy to know which way the quadcopter's flying. Battery life of about 7 minutes. Very easy to fly. One major downside, this is the lightest of the three. So if there is any wind over 2.5 miles an hour, you are going to struggle with this a little bit. It is going to give you a bit of resistance. But if you're on a still spring or summer's day, and if you've never flown before, at the cost of £25, this is a very good quadcopter. And to be honest with you, I've smashed this up about 4 times, fixed it 3 times, and she just keeps on going. So once again, you get quite a good bit of ground clearance with it. Not as much as the JJRC, but you know, it's just going to be a basic quadcopter, probably your first quadcopter, and to be honest, you can't really go far wrong, I think. Once again, no altitude hold, but you learn very quickly with this. It is a little bit quick. The transmitter range is quite far as well. So when you put those two things together, you have got to be careful that you don't fly it too far. But when it does land, because it's so light, if the motors do cut out mid-flight, then it is just going to glide down before it hits the floor. I've got a friend of mine that is halfway as he was flying it, the battery died, and the quadcopter landed on concrete and it bounced. Didn't crack, and it's fine to fly again. Myself, I would recommend this one as well. So these are the 3 that I would recommend for a beginner. I mean, all 3 of them, reviews are on the site if you want to have a look on my channel. I've got written reviews as well on Blogger. So you've got going from the most expensive down to the least expensive. So you've got roughly £85 or thereabouts, roughly £30 to £35 or thereabouts, and roughly 23 to 25 or thereabouts. Might be a little bit cheaper now because the next model up from this has come out already. If you're going to get the X5C, go for the 2nd edition, which is what this one is. The difference is the 1st edition had some stability issues. The 2nd edition, they completely cleared those up. I've flown the 1st edition, and it's like trying to fly treacle. You're not going to do it. This one, absolutely perfect. This one, I believe there is only one version out, and that's just the H5P. And this one, once again, is just the one version out again, the 401H. Yeah, no problems whatsoever. If you've got some favourite quadcopters that you've flown, or ones you started off on, please add them in the comments. Let us know. It'd be fantastic if we can actually get some great community out of this, so we can help people. That's what we're all about. So there we are, folks. I hope you've enjoyed. As I say, this is going to be more of a weekly thing, along with the unboxings and the flight tests, and hopefully it'll help out some people if you're just coming into the world of quadcopters and or drones. Alright then, my friends, well, thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and until next time, happy flying.